What's up, guys? This is Kaz, the Elevateyourcraft, and welcome to episode number 13 of the vlog. And this one is a doozy, but it had to be because I am going to be talking about double unders. One of my favorite techniques and one that is used extensively in my routines, and to be honest, is pretty much second nature now to my jumping. And I will definitely include a clip of me performing some consecutive double unders at the end of this video. And that video will be actually one that I recorded where I was doing 100 consecutive double unders, just to put on display some of the consistency and technique and things like that. And by no means are all 100 perfect in that video, but it's a really good example of a lot of the concepts I'm going to talk about today in this episode of the vlog. So starting at the beginning, the double under is a technique that involves jumping over 2 rotations of the rope in a single jump. The idea is simple, however, execution is anything but. The double under is an excellent way to develop strength and explosiveness in the legs, as well as anaerobic conditioning. Now, it's important not to consider the double under only a great workout for the lower half of the body. It's also a great workout for the upper half. It does a great job in working out the overall grip, the arms, the shoulders, as well as the rotator cuffs. Okay. Now, it may not be apparent from the start. However, the wrists play a crucial role in proper execution of the double under. And that's most often a sticking point for those new to the technique. And that's because it requires sudden and controlled changes in speed that new practitioners often aren't really ready for. They don't have the mechanics and or strength. And as you progress in your training, you may notice you don't need to jump as high to properly execute the double under. And that's a key sign that you're improving technique and developing the strength and mechanics that I mentioned earlier. Now, in the early stages of double under training, it's common for the practitioner to jump much higher than necessary to compensate for this lack of strength and speed. And that's okay. This is something that will come with time and with practice. But the key takeaway here is that wrist strength and speed need to be emphasized in preliminary training for the double under. And that'll set yourself up for success. Now, I must emphasize that you need to have a core competency in the fundamental techniques. So the bounce step and the alternate step, it's an absolute must if you are expecting success in your double under training. Now, furthermore, this actually brings me to my first strategy for success, and that is employ sprints in your bounce step and or alternate step training. Now, while you may be competent in these areas at slower speeds, speeds that you find comfortable and they aren't too daunting, I encourage you to practice in short bursts of speed. And that'll help develop your overall strength and dexterity, especially in the wrists. And it'll also help you become accustomed to handling various rope speeds. Now, as a guide, it's very useful to understand what your comfortable RPM is. So the RPM when you're just jumping at a comfortable pace, it's not too tiring, and you're overall just having fun with it. You're not really jumping for a particular purpose, just something that's comfortable. It's important to understand that. And then once you have an idea of what your average RPM is, increase that by 30 to 40 RPM for your sprints. Now, for me, mine hovers around 150 RPM, my comfortable pace. And then when I want to get into some sprint training, I hover around the speeds, around 200 to 220 RPM. But I put myself at a slight disadvantage because I like long-handled ropes, which will slow me down a little bit. But I prefer that extra challenge on the grip. Now, this is an important consideration because it actually brings me to my next strategy for success, and that is understanding how the rope affects your training. Now, ropes tailored to speed are excellent for double under training, and those ropes tend to have short, light handles with a PVC or steel cable rope. Now, this combination will put the least demand on your power and conditioning requirements. Now, having ropes such as leather, cotton, or nylon will put you at a disadvantage because there's extra demand on the upper body, and you are limited in how much speed you can achieve with these ropes just due to their nature. Now, going into training with the knowledge of whether or not your rope fits into your goals and the type of training that you want is very important, and it will save you a lot of frustration down the line. So you want to make sure, especially early on in your training when you're newer to rope, you want to make sure that the rope type is congruent with the type of training that you want to achieve. Okay, now a final note on steel cable ropes. Now they're unique in that you can achieve very high speeds with them, but they're much less flexible and are very painful when they hit you or when you have a catch or an error. And it's for that reason that I recommend you have a core comfort with your rope training. You don't want to expect a lot of errors in your training, when you're new and you're a beginner, and use a steel cable rope because it'll really hurt when you make a lot of mistakes. And that's something that you don't want. And I say that from firsthand experience because I used the steel cable rope early in my training thinking that it was a great idea. However, I put myself through a fair amount of pain. So again, I recommend that you have just this baseline comfort. You want to have proficiency in the fundamentals, and you're overall just comfortable with your rope training, and you're okay with it hurting a little more if you do make some errors. Now, the final strategy for success. And just like in the early stages of your rope training, whether it's your fundamentals like the bounce step or alternate step, you can break down your double under training into stages. And what I mean by that is you can break down the double under training into jumping without the rope and simulating a double under, or two, you could put both handles of the rope into just one hand and again simulate a double under. Now, what these exercises will do is help you get a feel for the overall movement. They'll improve conditioning and, very importantly, develop your timing. Now, timing isn't something that I'm really getting into in this episode of the vlog. However, it is crucial to overall rope competency. Okay, so if you're having trouble with your double under training, I really encourage you to break it down into these steps because they'll act as building blocks in developing the necessary skills and mechanics to achieve the double under. And it's a great way to build confidence because once you see that you can do these things, once you see that your conditioning is getting better, your mechanics are getting better, then it'll just put you in an even better position to tackle the full double under. Okay, and one more thing, if you do go with stage 2 of breaking down your double under training by putting both handles into one hand, then be sure to include both hands in the exercise. Okay, so make sure to get both in there. That way you're training evenly. Okay, now I certainly haven't covered everything here, but I hope that this proves helpful in your training. And I'll definitely have that clip of me performing the double unders at the end of this. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear if this has helped your training at all, or if there are any particular issues or things that are going well in your double under training. Definitely let me know. I'd love to chime in, and I do want to hear about your successes. Okay, so with this next clip, notice the wrists, jump height, and the consistency in technique from jump to jump. And again, these double unders aren't perfect either. I did have a sort of a loss of control in my landing as the repetitions went on. So I know that, over time as I'm performing these double unders, my technique is breaking down slightly. likely due to conditioning. But these will demonstrate a lot of the key concepts that I've discussed here. Okay, guys, that's it for me today. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you next time.